you were reminding me, I came here in 1972, which is a very famous year in Chile.
73.
73. And there's somebody else in this room who was the director of the Institute of Development Studies and subsequently deputy director of UNICEF. Sir Richard Jolly is sitting over there. I know you've got to leave in a minute.
That's it.
So you have the privilege of the first observation.
Sussex gained enormously because of Pinochet, because I think 10,000 people left. And the former director of IDS, Dudley Sears, worked with WUS, World University Service, both to help students who were threatened to get out of Chile, and as a sideline bring Osvaldo Sunkel, Edmundo Fuenzalida, Carlos 14, and several others to IDS. So over the 70s, we had an exceptionally strong group of Chileans. I just hope, I'm sorry I've got to go, but I want to hear, with the prospect now of rolling back some of this crazy privatization, which has got many of us in the UK worried. And also, I sort of wonder how we can assemble some of you were saying not only Chile is privatized and all of that, but how we could bring more of this experience to public attention in the UK.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yes. We are available to share all our experiences.
Yeah.
Really, we in this process from 2000 probably 10 until now, we have faced in Chile all these debates between the neoclassical, neoliberal way of thinking the social issues, in particularly education, and that was mandatory for us to prepare ourselves and having good arguments against them. So I think that in Chile right now there's a lot of people that are quite familiarized with those kind of arguments. We talk them on TV, on a national TV, and there's a lot of people in Chile who are not believing in this neoliberal paradigm. So I think it's very good in a way of building relationships between your country, for example, that are experimenting this initial push of the neoliberal agenda. And in Chile we are like closing one era, I hope so, of neoliberal paradigm on education and trying to open a different era. And I think that you should be aware of what happened in Chile. Absolutely.
Giorgio, please. I just would like to know what your opinion is on the following.
Could you just say who you are?
Oh, sorry. My name is Monica Lucero. I'm Chilean, and I was a work holder. So I've been here for nearly 30 years. But I went back to Chile in 2001, and I went to work in Lorda, a former mining area, and there was a college there, a technical college, that had been started as a response to the closure of the mines, to give education to the children of the miners who otherwise would have gone down to work in the mines.
CFT Lotarawa.
But they were,
Yes.
So, and then we looked at this paradox. In Chile, because of the class perceptions of life, very classist, children, the families want their children to go to HE, higher education, but they never consider going to technical colleges. And for Chile to develop, that's the sector that needs to be, because you have this inverted pyramid, and you have, 1,000 engineers for one technician or something like that, which is ridiculous for a country that needs to be developed, and not just produce at a technical level, but to add value to the products. So that's what really needed to change. I'm surprised that you're not considering in the education agenda to develop that sector should be, very, very strong.
Yes, it was very important in the first petitions. The technical agenda was introduced not only in 2009, 2010, but also in 2011. But it was very difficult to manage it in the public opinion, because it's not the free education non-profit slogan, that is very strong. Chile, we wanted to end with the profit on schools and also universities, and we wanted to have free education for all. So the technical, we had proposals that were like 200 pages. We delivered to the ministers 200 pages of research, comparative research, arguments and stuff, and we put it there. And we have, for example, a technical point of view of vocational schools, of also how should we planning, how we should be planning the academic supply, the academic offer. Because in Chile there's a lot of sectors that has been grown. For example, the journalists, and you have 10,000 journalists studying every year, and you have a job market of 3,000, every year. So the same with the teachers, and we are not understanding that is a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of energy of the same students. That then we don't be able to work on what they study. So I think that there's a lot of planning to do in terms of the higher education, university or also technical, and we have proposals about that. We didn't forget that, but there weren't so mainstream as the other.
Because in Lota, it's a very progressive system.
Yes, it's free for all.
You could get to middle technician and then get to higher education.
Yes.
Okay, I've got Stephanie on my right and the lady over there. So Stephanie, if you'd like to say who you are.
Yeah, I'm Stephanie Griffiths-Jones, but I'm also Chilean, and I've been in this country for a long time. I also came from Bus. I wanted to ask you, a little bit following on the previous question, how do you see education as an instrument for future development, for a vision of development? Because we talk, I think the issue of equality with youth and other leaders of race is extremely important, and increasing the quality of education. But also, if you look, for example, at the very successful countries like Germany, like Asian tigers, they have used, whether it's education, whether it's economic policy, whether it's development banks, to further a model of development that's been very successful. Chile has been successful, but up to a point in certain areas of progress, so on. But for a future development of Chile, less dependent on commodities and so on.
Yes.
How do you see education, serving that vision of development?
Yes.
In research, in
Yes.
technical education.
Nice question. Yes. The problem is that in Chile we don't have an industrial policy. We don't. So it's very difficult to try to address the educational purposes into a wider industrial policy. So our products that we export to other countries are driven only by the market, the supply and the demand, and are not being planned. What areas are we good at, and how we should, the North universities be only about the mining issue, for example, or in the South universities more about fishing and the forest and the sustainabilities and the conflicts with the indigenous people. And I don't think that that in our country we have this mind about planning. It's all about how it's liquid and the market will rule and set, and there's a invisible hand will fix on that. But I think if you ask me about the what is education for in the 21st development way, it's not only about growth. Just disconnect. it's not only about growth. Of course, that you must have education for minimum skills in different areas of knowledge, and to plan this with an industrial policies. But I also think, and my grandfather has influenced me a lot. He is an engineer, a chemical engineer, and also he's a philosopher. He has both. So he teach me just a little bit about Platon. And he has this kind of way of looking people as genes and culture. And in the terms of culture, he said to me, okay, education is the way that we transpass the culture to the next generation. But we are now trespassing only one side of the culture, only the what is truth, but not the good and the good and the beauty. I don't know what you're saying, but lo cierto, lo bueno y lo bello. The truth, the good and the beauty. So we are not only about science, and I think that for the future development, it's also about how you behave in your own societies. So for me, at least, one of the important things is to teach to the students, to our next generations, how to transport their feelings, how to engage with our cultural past, how do we relate, we are citizens also, and that's things we're not trespassing on our educational system. And I would love to have a more mixed system in terms of what are we teaching. But if the measurements, and that's always, we came back to this, if the measure is all about standardized items or standardized tests on math and on language, we are not being able to see this wider vision of transpassing culture as something else. So for me, at least, we need to change the question is, what is education for? So for me today it's too much focus on the skills for the labor market, and not for the other issues that finally drives you in life, like, I don't know, arts, sports, culture, and civic citizenship, and I don't know.
Okay, I'll take three questions and ask you to respond to them, and we'll get more people in that way. So please make it a question rather than a...
Yeah, I do need to introduce myself.
Yep.
My name is Glory Saavedra. I'm Colombian, and I'm very pleased to see you doing my...
Oh, the Colombians did strike too.
Yeah, that's one reason I'm going to bring this up, because we had one of the student leaders from Colombia. Unfortunately, it wasn't term time, so a lot of people weren't able to be present. That was this summer. We had David Flores, who you probably have met.
Yes.
I think one of the lessons I mean, I've been very excited. I've been following you through YouTube and also the Colombians, and thinking, yes, you've got the answer to these problems. I do think so, and I hope a lot of people agree with that. I think one of the most important things that the student movements have done is link the different sectors of the economy, and not just have one vision of what, as you say, education should be like. So my question is, or my reflection for you is, how far do you actually network with the Colombian movement? I think do you network a lot with them? And also the other question is, because I've been talking to English activists, and because I'm an activist as well as an academic, and I feel as if Europe can learn a lot from what's going on in Latin America at the moment, especially Colombia and Chile. We've had such right-wing governments, and so we do need more networking, not just between Chile and Colombia, but also maybe Chile,
Mexico,
and Europe, and so on. So would you mind telling me how much of this is going on?
Okay, let's put that on the table, and we'll have two more questions. Also, after we finish here, we will be going to the IDS bar. So if you wish to network a bit, do join us. So I'll take two more. Mario?
Thanks, Giorgio, for that. I kind of want to ask a bit about the pressure that students have come under in Chile during this movement. The way you presented it looked very peaceful and everything was fine. And I'm sure that beneath that there was a lot of repression.
A lot.
There was a lot of arrests, there was a lot of detentions. And my own work looking at political assassinations in Colombia of teachers, trade unionists, organisers, academics, who have also been resisting against neoliberalism in the education sector. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. And I just want to also say that although we often think neoliberalism and repression is far away, yesterday the Vice-Chancellor suspended 5 students in this university.
Yes.
Because of their involvement in anti-privitisation movement. And there has been a wave of repression, and in fact in this university there was an injunction to prevent all protests taking place on campus, which was only rescinded in September. And I would urge all of you to go to the Students' Union webpage, because there is a petition there for these 5 students that were excused yesterday. So yeah, if you could just talk a little bit about that, that would be really great.
Okay.
My intervention is just a comment.
Sorry, who are you?
My name is Veronica Roa. I'm PhD student in this group here at the university. And in Chile there is an initiative in the Ministry of Education together with the Ministry of Labor. They are trying to implement the sectoral skill concept. So that is, they are trying to connect this technical education with the market needs. There are 3 pilot projects. One is in the salmon industry, the other is in the wine industry, and the other is in the manufacturing sector. So there is something there we would like to have a look at.
Okay, for the 3 questions, the first one about the links or the networkings, I don't think that, I mean, we had some emails, there's a network in Latin America of students, there is, and it's the OCLADE, I don't know if you know, but I don't think that we have really connect each other in terms of supporting. There was 1 or 2 demonstrations who were at the same time, but didn't came through the news as a connected mobilization. It was some kind of helping each other, supporting each other, but I really don't think that we have done the necessary connections, and I would love to have more of them. I think that we could learn a lot of the process that has been taking place on Colombia, or maybe right now in Brazil, but not probably from the education sector, but other sectors. Also in Brazil, I've been in Mexico by the media industry, and at least I have been several connections, but not as a structure. I mean, the National Students Union or Confederation has very very weak connections really with the other movements, and I think that's of course a weakness. I don't have more response on that. With Mario's, yes, indeed, in Chile we suffer a lot of repression on the demonstrations. I think that the biggest repression were not on the student movements, but was with the Mapuches, with the indigenous people in the south, and this is permanently. This is all years, all governments. It's a continuous repression on them, and for us was a very particular year because people got into I don't know if jail, but they went into the commissaries, and the students who were protesting, I don't know, a lot of them suffer more than just a capture. Were on the bus of the police. They were hit by the police, and that's why we had a lot of demands on the Inter-American Court,
Human Rights Court.
Yes, Human Rights Court, and they gave us the reason in several times. And there was also another. I mean, for example, in 100,000 demonstration, 100,000 people demonstration, there was always like 200, 300 people who were there for acting in violent ways. I mean, they were with
Colored.
Yes. They were covered, and they were with bombs with, I don't know, how do you call it? Molotovs. Well, with Molotovs and stuff. And they came into the banks and stuff, but it's not representative at all of the movement. But the government tries always to talk about, well, we don't want violence, we don't want, and they were those who brought violence to the 90% of the demonstrations. And of course, there's people who want to act through violence, and we didn't support them. We almost fight with them in the same demonstrations. We said, like, hey, we are doing this peacefully. We need to preserve this peacefully, because tomorrow at the newspapers, or tonight at the news, there will be only images about people covered with Molotovs, and we didn't want that. So I think there was a lot of repression, and that was a mistake by the government, I think, because, I mean, tactically, because the repression gave us more strength, because people at their homes, their kids, their children, I mean 15 years old, their parents know that their sons are not delinquents. They will not taking Molotovs. So when they got hit by the police, they convert them also in activists, because they believe their sons, not the government. So the government, I think that they made a lot of mistakes communicationally, but yes, we suffered a lot of repression. There was one boy killed in demonstrations by a police, Manuel Guerrero, in the national demonstrations with the workers, with the National Workers United Central Union, yes, and was one of the most difficult moments on 2011, actually, because we felt also we felt kind of responsible, but it's an unfair feeling, because we didn't act that way. It was very awful that moment. And for the problems in economy and education, probably there's some piloting things, but it's not a political. It's not a political decision that is, or it's not a political policy. I mean, that is discussed widely in our nation. I mean, it's not on the newspapers. It's something that probably you have some pilots, but it's not that some people will be president and say, okay, we will have industrial policies, because theoretically, this government is not in favor of having industrial policies. I mean, theoretically. I mean, I studied in the Catholic University. There was the economical school, the School of Economics in our university had since the 60s scholarship program, or I don't know how you call it, with Chicago, and they had a lot of people on Chicago University, Milton Friedman's Chicago Boys, yeah. So the people who teach us really don't believe in that, and there are several in all the government. There are people who don't believe in the state playing a role in the economy, playing a role. I mean, in the industrial policies of economy. So I think that probably there's a few examples that are the exception, but the rule is in the other ones.
Well, but they can take those examples and do something.
Yes. Probably.
Right, I've got three more. Barbara and Anita.
There's two of them.
Yeah, sorry. We've got another round.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Several questions mentioned education as a right, and talked about citizenship also. Do you have any comments about citizenship education itself, how it might be instrumentalized, or what it might, how it contribute to the
I didn't get it.
Sorry, I'll repeat it. At different points, you've talked about education as a right,
Yes.
and also talked about, mentioned citizenship.
Yes.
Do you have any comments about citizenship education itself and how it might have contributed to the current situation?
Yes.
Okay, so Anita.
Thank you for that. My name is Anita Sharma. I'm a PhD student. Thank you for your film and presentation. It was thought-provoking, and it's something that one hears about in sort of, the left-wing discourse, this idea of equality, etc. But what does it mean? It's something I think that leaves a lot of us confused, and where do you start? And I think it's very important for the left-wing to have some very pointed attempts at changing specific things, because otherwise it becomes too vague. And I think one very good place to start that will get closer to home for most people, but I think is endemic to inequality, is inheritance. If we really want an equal society, we should abolish inheritance. Do not give anything to your children.
I agree.
So I don't know how serious we are in this room, when we say, okay, we want equality. Because that actually means that we want to do some things that will change things. Otherwise, it's just up in the air, and we can keep talking. So we really have to look at things that generate inequality and change those. Otherwise, it means nothing.
I'm sure that one will go to Ideas Bar.
My name is Paula. I'm Chilean. I'm studying a PhD in education here. And my question is related to Barbara's question in terms of this movement, this student movement, as a movement of citizens. I just finished my fieldwork in Chile. I'm looking at secondary school students' understandings of citizenship. And my concern at this point, because I'm starting my data analysis, is that I can't see a link. Students don't link citizenship and this movement. It's like and the equality in terms of geographical location in Chile is also big one. So what is your opinion in terms of what happens in regions, in local communities, in small communities? Because my fieldwork, I developed my fieldwork in a small town in southern Chile, and there is a perception that this movement was very important, but for people who live in Santiago,
yes,
and not for them. So we've been talking a little bit about that, and
yes,
you made some comments very interesting in that. It would be good if you can share those.
Yes. How important was the lack of citizenship educational for getting into this? I think that really it's really interesting, because if you see the national curriculum, I don't know the exact year that they abolished civic.
15 years ago.
15, something like that. 15 years ago it was abolished, so the most of the students didn't, who were protesting, didn't have any. I mean, I didn't have at the school, and we. I think that the lack of citizenship education creates a gap between the people and the political institutions. Create also an asymmetry on the information of what the different politicians make. I mean, you have local governments people, you have parliament, you have the central government, and you can understand how those interact each other, and you can know better who to protest, and because they have the power to change it, and not protesting to the local government if it's a money issue that has to do with the central government, and so on and so on. So I think that the problem is that in Chile most of the people don't understand really how politics works. I mean it, and that's one part, because the other part is also the mistrust that has taken, I don't know if this only in Chile, I guess it's globally. People really don't believe in politics as a way to transform things, and it's really, and it's a pity, because if we lose that trust, that we can drive changes through politics. Really, people try. It's in the enters into a cycle of desesperanza, despair. So and the despair and anger also. So I think that if we could teach our children from the early teaching some of the things that how our society works, how are the different powers, how do the different persons can achieve changes, and if we have also a structure that is able to make changes. In Chile we there's a lot of changes that are not allowed to be changed. Well, you could have people more oriented on how to organize them and how to act for driving those changes. But in Chile, I think that we have not. And for connecting with this, with the other question, I think that in Chile we have a problem of decentralization that has not been solved. And one of the strengths of the student movement, I think that was at least the university movement, because there was secondary movement, but we were together somewhere sometimes, and some other times we were with a little problems. But mainly we were together, and one of the main strengths was that every week we have an assembly in a different part of our country. So we were into the north, into the center, into the south, into the middles, into the different towns. So the local journalists, the local media was very interested when we had an assembly in different parts of the country. So that was a key factor for having a national movement, and everybody involved. Everybody, it was like you're going to laugh, but it was really like it was a very important moment for probably a small city to receive the students from all parts for having an assembly on the Sunday. And it shows in different media, and people went there and asked themselves, and was quite interesting to notice that as a factor for having a national movement, not only a center in Santiago movement. And I think that the problem is that, of course, the speakers of Santiago, I was one of the two speakers with Camila Vallejo. I don't know if you know her, but we were both the speakers of the national movement, but representing Santiago. So we had much more spaces on the media for put our opinion into the public opinion. And the other leaders, the other speakers, they had less time, so it was unfair, for sure. So probably we got more attention than them. And that creates conflicts between Santiago and the regions, of course, because it was always about how the power is distributed more equally. And the power of being in the media is also a power. And I think that, I don't know how we were able to change it. We tried a lot of time of changing the speakers in the news, and finally we have no solution for that. But of course it affects the relationship between regions and the student movement in regions and in Santiago. But for being fair, we didn't have more, the students of Santiago didn't get any different solution than the region. It's the same. Nobody got a solution. So I don't know if it's a solution, but the response to the demands were not locally, were national. So nobody got their expectations fulfilled. Nobody. And for the heritage, I will agree with you. Really, it's not only a left subject. I think that if somebody believes on equality of opportunities, not only equality in general, should be against on heritage. I mean,
If you're a politician, you should start practicing.
As a principle. I agree with that. I mean, really, I agree with that. And
You have to agree with it when you're old.
In your property at will.
probably, I don't have any property.
This is being recorded.
Yes. I speak several times with friends that probably are from a right-wing liberal, and they are also agree with, because they're liberal, they believe in meritocracy. And they say like, no, we shouldn't have inheritance. But that we shouldn't have. They believe that too. They are very. I mean, they're in the right wing, but liberal, but not in the far right that are more conservatives. They want to keep their oligarchy position in the elites. And the other guys are more like believe in the principle of meritocracy and social.
This may be the only thing that you agree with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett about. Now, did somebody was trying to ask a question, didn't get in first? Yeah, go ahead.
During your presentation, you spoke about financing tertiary education. You said it's like around 1820. I know Chile is a much bigger economy, but coming from the context of the Caribbean, where is the opposite? Tertiary education was free, but no, is economically unsustainable for government to do so. So you have to look at other options. Chile is in the process of rolling back. Just want your opinion on how far you think that would be rolled back in terms of what the process would be, gradual, and in terms of what you think would be a good balance so access wouldn't be too effective in terms of how tertiary education is financed.
Well, good question.
John.
I'm very interested in the way your campaign hasn't appealed to issues such as the effectiveness of schooling and that sort of thing, but it's focused on meritocracy. And I'm just interested in how you're pursuing the meritocracy argument, because in some ways meritocracy is quite a difficult thing to argue against.
Yes.
It gets enlisted
Indeed.
Hello, I'm Carolina. I'm also Chilean, and I'm a student, an undergrad student at La Católica. I was in my first year of nursing when I voted for you. President.
You voted for me.
Now you've got to buy a drink.
So he was the president of Students' Union at our university, and now he is in the parliament. So my question is, and I didn't vote for the parliament because I was here. So my question is, now that all of this revolution has already happened, that for 6 years, once a week, Santiago was completely stopped. Nothing was working because there was a march going on. After all of that, now you're in the parliament. So I want to ask you, do you think this is a way forward, and how?
Good question.
Considering, our political...
Tough questions. The first question, your name was? Trudy. Okay, Trudy. I think that for supporting, for financing a system, you have to bring the money from somewhere, of course. I mean, there's a system in higher education costs a lot, and the problem is, what's the model of financing one higher educational system? Today in Chile, it's based on tuition fees, really high tuition fees. It's like, as I said, from one minimal wage until almost 3 minimal wages a month. It's like in Chile from $400 till $1,000 a month, and it's very tough to finance that. But I think that we have several problems in Chile that could bring the total expenditure lower. I mean, first of all, we have 50% of dropout. I mean, dropout of higher education system. So I think that if we are more efficient in the way that some universities don't have access, as I said, a lot of private universities. I mean, these for-profit universities, but not legally, but illegally. They don't have barriers for the access. So they collect people, and then they have a pyramidal model of functioning. They receive 5,000 people in the first year, and the second year they have and then they have, and then they have, and they know that, but they only do it because it's a business, and so and they don't want to select at the beginning. Of course, there won't be a business. So I think that one of the problems is the way that we have too many people at the university right now. There's one problem, because we need to improve the primary and secondary system for those people be able really to go to university. Today is a promise that, of course, all of us can do promises, but the people dropping off, it's worse for them to then go back with a debt and not having a degree. It's really a mess. And the other thing is our careers are too long. For having, for example, as engineer, I studied 6 years. And it's only a degree, a license degrees. It's not a master. It's not a nothing. It's just the degree. 6 years. And also for being journalist, 5 years, the first degree. So you don't have if you want a master, you need 2 more years or 1.5 more years. And it's the challenge also to short some careers and having also better secondary system for not having to the first year having all this nivelating that. But at the end, I think at least that the education should be a right for everybody. I mean, the education should not be some right that you focus on only those who need it, because I think that everybody needs it. And of course in the higher education is something different, but the principle states, if someone needs to go, whether the technical institution or the university, you should provide them that right. So how do you finance it? I think that is by taxes. I mean, the taxes, we're in Chile, we have a 20% of our economy is income from the state. The public amount to spend is 20% of our GDP. So it's a very little state compared with the OECD and stuff. So I think that we have space to guarantee some rights. And for example, here in the UK, you have the right to the health. And nobody in our country, it's impossible to think about that, about having a national health care system that is free at the moment that you go. It's insane for us. I mean, for everybody, even for the richer. So how do you pay? With taxes. So I think that it's a structure that you should. It's how do you pay for it? Do you pay in the moment, or do you pay after only by the richer? And I think that it's a progressive way of collecting taxes is the way to finance those important things as the education. We can speak later if you want, if you have a question about that. The second thing was yes, very important. Camila's brother, Camila Cosiña's brother, has written down a few columns about this. I think the first thing to address on the equality of opportunities, the first argument to attack this idea as the justice itself, because today everybody talks about equality of opportunities, everybody, as a goal, as the final goal. And I think that, for example, if we go back to the chart when we have the percentiles, do you remember it? Yes? And we suppose that we are here 100%, and we make a lottery, and we distribute equally the opportunities for being in that percentile or in that percentile. That will be perfectly equally of opportunities. Yes, everybody will have the same probability to be in the different parts. So it would be a perfect equally of opportunities, but nobody could ever think that that would be fair. In the second round, when you put that into, of course, is giving the argument into the extreme, you know. But when you find that idea interesting, you will go to the next argument. And meritocracy is based on two elements, and it's about the effort that you push on what you do and the talent. And those two things are so subjective, are really so subjective, because first of all, the effort, it's difficult to measure. But imagine that you measure on hours of working. Okay, but a worker, a worker on this construction work the same or many times more than an executive, and they don't receive the same amount. So there comes the talent. So it's a musician less talent than an executive. You can argue that. So finally, those two elements of the meritocracy are alive because they are driven by finally by the market, by the subjective perception that everybody has to do. And finally, you have, for example, the talent is so subjective that you cannot put into a scale. I don't know how to say it in English. I could argue with you in Spanish. It's very difficult. But no, it's difficult to explain in English because it's not my language. But probably with a beer, I would be capable for explaining you more further about that concept. But I would recommend you a few columns that Camila's brother is a bright engineer and also sociologist and a lot of careers. Yes, it's very interesting. He's very talented, yes, and very effort. But that way. And the parliament, I don't have an answer for that really, because this is not there's no right and wrong path. I guess it's just about bets, and we at least take a bet. This is a bet about, and of course it's a risky bet, and we say, well, we think that if we don't get involved into politics, we will not be able to change those things. We had, as you said, the massive demonstrations, and nothing changed. Nothing changed. Nothing objectively. Yes, because if you measure, subjectively, a lot of things changed. The discussion changed, but nothing nothing palpable changed, concrete. So our reflection, at least at Democratic Revolution, that is the movement that I participate in, we think that the way to do changes is in politics, but also in mobilizations, in both. So we're trying to be engaged in both processes. And in political one, it's very important because we don't want others to make decisions that we could make in a different way. So we're not trying to push the agenda from the politics, but also from the public opinion, from the movements. And I hope this bet we can achieve our goals. Nobody can guarantee that, but I guess we're assuming that risk, and only the time has the answer for that. Yes.
Okay, I think that's probably an invitation to move on. I will allow 3 one-sentence questions to finish. Okay? So 1, 2, 3. 1 sentence, 2 at the most.
Mine is just a suggestion to the Open Society people, because I think there's a film to be made there, and I've seen lots of wonderful YouTube clips on both the Chilean and the Colombian student movement, but a lot of them are not accessible to an English-speaking audience. And I think we need, I mean, is there a documentary, I don't know about, already on the Chilean students?
There's a lot of documentaries.
No, I know in Spanish, but in English as well, or with subtitles? Because
I think so. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of material. There was the year of the documentaries. I mean, people, the creators love that year.
Okay, while Hugh is thinking about whether he'll fund that.
No, I have a quick answer.
I'll come back to you at the end.
Okay, it's pretty short. Is there a time? Is there a time in this sort of neoliberal cycle? I mean, we're at a different point.
Yes.
And I've got a very strong feeling of what you're saying about the sense of the tonality of the moment. And
You didn't say who you were.
Rebecca,
Well, thank you, Rebecca.
And Tony.
Tony Somerset. Yes, I'd just like to ask you, if we've got a poor child in an urban slum or down in the south somewhere, are there mechanisms by which those kids from those schools, and I've seen many of them in many countries who are really seriously bright, have an opportunity to be promoted through the system and to end up in one of the top functioning universities?
I will start with this one, but I think that today you have examples of that. It happens. I mean, there is some cases where people from the slums or from different, for the poorest areas, became people. I mean, very successful in the traditional way of thinking success. But it's not the regular thing. I mean, it's one exceptional case that, of course, everybody looks and say, okay, everybody can do it because she or he could do it. But I think that structurally, it's impossible. I mean, the odds are, I don't know, but it's almost impossible.
There is no examination system which would identify these children?
You can help me, but I don't think so. You have more. For example, at the schools, está la SEP. There is the SEP that you give more subsidy for those schools who have more vulnerable or poor areas. But I don't think there is a.
There are some NGOs working.
Yes, but it's not about it. Yes. There's NGOs working on that, but the government. And I will say no. And about the question of the time that we are now in this process, I think that 2011 has a lot of different inputs that allowed us to have those demonstrations. It was not only about Camila, or not only about I don't know, the debt, or not were many factors. For example, we have a right-wing government. All the students, I mean, from different sectors, were united against the policies of this government. So it was about the debt, because in 2005 it was implemented by a left-wing government. Was implemented a loan by the banks. I mean, the banks give you a loan for the university. So the people were getting out of the university when in 2011. I mean, 6 years. So people started to pay on that year, and they realized that they couldn't pay it. It was impossible. They had to pay 20 or 30% of their wages on their loan, and where it was insane. And there was 1 million students that year on the university or in the higher educational system. So almost everybody in Chile has a related person who was at the university. So the subject was something familiar for them. I mean, a cousin, a neighbor, somebody was at the university. So I think that there was a massive argument for talking about these issues. There was a lot of there was a problem, a very focused problem with the food vouchers in 2011, and the price of the voucher, the amount was not enough for buying food. a lunch. So that was one of the initial keys of this movement. Sounds insane, but was the first issue. So there's a lot of things that work together, and it was like all the planets in the same line, and was 2011, and I don't know. Well,
yes. Well, if you'd like to make a closing remark.
No, it's far too mundane for that. What I'd really like to see actually is perhaps a small little app that you can just have develop subtitles for any movie and then use Google Translate to translate them to any language you like. I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult to set up, so if anybody is technologically gifted and
yes,
ideas.
Actually, in Google you can translate it.
Yeah, no, but I mean, if there needs to be a separate, if you can get
in Google you can
translate subtitles in one language.
No, you can translate it. You.
Do it.
Okay. I think we'll go into the bar on this one. So let me just thank Giorgio for what I think has been a very memorable and inspiring evening. It's difficult to grasp what has happened and how much has been achieved in a short period of time in an exceptional historical window. And what lies behind, I started by saying, it's always about states and markets in some sense, but of course it's about people. And it's about how one generation transforms the next. This stuff is really important though, because the counterweight, maintaining the counterbalance to the corporatization at a global level of the assessment system, of the learning materials system, of the software. And so if there aren't voices on the other side of this, all you have left is marketing. And if you start believing the marketing, which is the purpose of marketing, to make you believe things that other people then we have a high level of risk. So I think Giorgio's given us an invitation here from one point of view or another to talk south-north, if you use that language, absolutely to talk south-south. This stuff is descending on everybody in different ways. There is a record, it's a long record, it speaks many truths, but those truths are mooted unless the kind of people who are in this room go with it and remember that there are public goods, that higher education is a public good, and that the purpose of states is to do several things. It's to do what markets can't do. It's to manage risk at a society level. And of course, it is the only real vector which will generate more rather than less equity. Nobody else will. So Giorgio, I think, has left us with a fantastic agenda, and we should thank him in the appropriate way.